Hey guys, second part of this video today about long muscles versus short muscles and strong muscles versus weak muscles. So we're going to talk about the different relationships between each one and how they can be affected and how we can kind of modify that for the better. So the first relationship that we see that's pretty common, at least in my situation with the athletes that I see, is the short and strong relationship for muscle. And that would be for trainees that have been in the gym for quite some time or strong, who've been training for many years. One example for this, the pec muscles are usually one that's short and that's strong also for a lot of people that have been training for a while. So the reason, obviously, a lot of bench pressing, a lot of chest pressing, very chest pec dominant with a lot of upper body exercises, and the guys like to do those exercises and get really good and strong at it. So that's one of the reasons why it's short and it's strong. So how do we overcome that problem? A couple of different strategies that we can use, but one is going to be to obviously lengthen the pec, right? So stretch it out, do some mobility work. So any type of pec stretches, right? Like a common one, just a pec stretch against the wall, can be done against the floor. I like a lot of shoulder extension work to improve the flexibility of those muscles. I like to do a lot of dowel work as well. Anything that we have a dowel behind the body where we'll be lifting as high as possible will lengthen the pecs and strengthen the posterior muscles, the posterior deltoids, the rhomboids, the trapezius muscles. It will help counteract that effect of having tight chest muscles. Another one that's very helpful is dip variations. Dips tend to have a bad rap in the strength conditioning world because a lot of people think it's unsafe in the position, but that's not exactly true. Dips can be very valuable as long as the person has the adequate range of motion and is not pushing through range of motion that we don't have. But in order to strengthen or cement the range of motion, dips are a great exercise because they will strengthen those tight muscles in a position that's normally very weak or sometimes just not even present. We don't even have that range of motion. So doing that exercise can help, but it's something that would be done a little bit further down the line. It's not something that we would address right away with someone who has short and strong pecs. We wouldn't just throw them on dip variation exercise right away. That would be after we're able to open the chest up a little bit, able to improve our shoulder extension. Second one I want to talk about is the short and weak relationship. So that one might be a little bit more confusing because a lot of time, like I mentioned in my last video, when we have short muscles, we also associate them with them being strong. But sometimes we have muscles that are short but also weak. Common example is the hip flexor complex, specifically the psoas muscle. These muscles are shortened and tight a lot of times, and the reason is because we spend our entire life sitting in the car, in front of the TV, at work, at home, at school. We're always sitting, always sitting. So that's just normal that these muscles are going to become tight, and it's going to be hard to counteract. But on the flip side, those muscles are rarely trained, and when we don't train them, they're going to be weak. That's just how it's going to be. So a bunch of different ways that we can strengthen those muscles. One that I like is different variations of tuck-ups, which is just an exercise where you're lying on your back and you're bringing your entire body up. You're flexing your hips and flexing your abs. So we have your abdominal muscles working in that position, but you also have your hip flexors. There's other position where we can isolate the hip flexors with putting the foot on the box and really maximizing the end range strength, which is usually where we're weak in that muscle. Then do the same in the sitting position. Try to lift the knee above 90 degrees, which is going to be the weak position for those muscles. So that's one way to address that. But also, we also want to make sure that we do mobility exercises for that area, because like I said before, it's short. So if we just keep strengthening it without lengthening it, we're going to end up in a situation where the muscle becomes short and strong instead of being short and weak, which is not necessarily a better place to be. So any type of hip flexor stretch is going to be great here. The one I talk about a lot is the wall quad stretch with the foot on the wall, knee on the ground. This is one of my favorite stretch. Open up the quads and the hip flexors. It's a great stretch, tremendous stretch for people who've never done that. Classic hip flexor stretch is a great one to do as well. Just engaging the glutes, making sure that we're rolling the hips back, opening up the front of the hip, and also include some more active mobility type of work. Doing a active quad mobility drill. So in a position where we would be laying on the ground, grabbing the quad, and then really engaging the glutes to lift the knee off the ground and really open up the front of the hip. So that's just another example. Now moving on to the third relationship, which is one of the least common one, is the long and weak. Or that situation, I'm saying least common because relatively speaking to the type of population that I see that I work with, but in the general population, that's probably something that's a little bit more common. Muscles that are long and muscles that are also weak. So an example of that would be the upper back muscle, the rhomboids, the middle traps, the posterior deltoids as well. Those muscles from just sitting all day and being in a slouch over position over a desk, when we're writing or reading or doing work on a computer, those muscles tend to be lengthened a lot, pulling your shoulder blades apart. Those muscles become long, and we rarely ever do any type of postural work. We rarely work those muscles, so those muscles are going to be weak. So this is one that's fairly easy to address, or simple to address, should I say, and that's going to be done by doing a good amount of rowing exercises and making sure that we're maximizing full range of motion, right? So both ends of the movement, so as much as going all the way in and retracting the shoulder blades and finishing with the hands close to the body, as much as going all the way out and letting the shoulder blades separate and pulling back from that position. So really letting the shoulder blades pull apart and then pull back from that position will help really get strength in that end range of motion. So we will translate that into a better strength versus length relationship. So the strength is going to improve, and hopefully the length will remain the same, but at the same time as we're strengthening this, we're also opening the front like I was talking about earlier, and that will create a better balance, and in the end when you have better balance you have better posture. And then the last relationship I want to talk about is obviously the money maker, the one that really we should be striving for essentially any muscles in your body, the long and strong relationship. This is something I talk about a lot on my posts on social media. I always tag strong and mobile. Strong and long is something that's very, very important, very valuable for athletes and for people who are active a lot, because it means that your muscles are long, they have good range of motion, they have good mobility, they also have strength and stability in a full range of motion. So that's one that we rarely see with people that I work with. Just naturally, this doesn't happen, so it has to be trained that way. So muscles have to be trained to be long and strong. One example of muscle that can be very effective in the long and strong position is the hamstrings. The hamstrings tend to be, it's hard to say because when people have long hamstring, if they stretch a lot, some people have really tight hamstrings, and that can be caused just by pelvic position. But when we train the hamstring to be strong in a full range of motion with different positions, with any hinging motion, like deadlifts and stiff-legged deadlifts, as much as Jefferson curl, which is an exercise I love, that keeps the knees straight, and then we're rounding the spine and going all the way down. It's going to work the hamstrings in a really, really lengthened position at the bottom. So that's a great way to train that. And then there's other examples, obviously, but hopefully I'm making this a little bit clearer for everybody, and that makes more sense. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you like, please share, like my page, and if you have any questions, please hit me up.